Hello everyone. In this session, I would be talking about stress testing versus other risk management tools. So, we are looking at what is the kind of relationship that is existing between stress testing and other measures, where we are majorly focusing on value at risk and economic capital based measures for risk. So, we want to compare stress testing where it actually to what extent it relates to VAR, to what extent it relates to economic capital. Approaches to using various VAR models and stress tests. What are the approaches that we currently have, or how do I really link stress testing with the VAR models? And in Basel 3, we have come across stressed VAR. So we really want to see what are the kinds of stressed inputs that I can give to it and what is the kind of role they are playing in the computation of stressed VAR, which is a requirement for capital adequacy as a part of Basel 3. And if at all I want to use different kinds of stressed risk metrics, what are the various advantages and the disadvantages associated with them? So that's a very small session talking about these four important aspects. Now, to understand the relationship between the stress testing and the various stress measures, various risk measures, we know that the stress testing, the main objective of stress testing is get an enterprise-wide view of risk. Right? We are looking at it across the organization. We are looking at not just a couple of departments, not just a few silos. We are looking at the complete enterprise-wide perspective of the risk. And we know that there are various risk management tools like value at risk, economic capital based tools, which can produce different kinds of results because we give different kinds of inputs to them. Right? The input forms a very, very essential aspect of any measure. The good is the data, the good is the result for the interpretation purpose. So when we look at VAR measures that we have and the stress tests, when I want to compare between these two, we are giving a set of data as an input to both of them, right? Probably daily data, monthly data, whatever it is. We are providing a set of data to it and we are creating multiple scenarios. The optimistic, the pessimistic, the most probable, different kinds of scenarios are given as an input. And VAR measures do some kind of a computation. Similarly, stress tests also do some kind of a computation. And finally, we are using all of these to have an assessment of the risk of a particular firm. And based on that, we are using this information for assessment of the capital requirements as well. So when you are talking of any of these risk management methods, whether it is value at risk or economic capital based or stress test, all we are doing is we have created a scenario regarding the macroeconomic behavior, or we have created a scenario regarding the firm's position. We have created one scenario, and based on that we have applied a formula where that scenario is getting converted into a loss value. And in stress test we have very few scenarios, but they are all very extreme kind of scenarios. The plausibility of the scenarios need to be questioned in many aspects, but we have a very few scenarios, whereas in case of value at risk we generally use a very large number of scenarios because the value at risk typically assumes a mean or average behavior of the various variables. Whereas in stress test we are looking at completely the extreme behaviors of the various variables. So we may not be able to have hundreds of scenarios in stress testing, whereas in the calculation of value at risk we can use n number of scenarios. There can be some kind of a consistency between the stress tests and the methods that you are using to compute the value at risk, especially if the scenarios are identical. If you are giving the same scenario for a stress test, and if you are giving the same scenario, when I am saying scenario, it could be a set of inputs and it's a process in which the inputs are correlated among each other. So when I am giving the same scenario both to a stress test as well as to a VAR method, even the results from both these tests also should be more or less consistent. But in practical, that may not happen at all. So the loss estimates that we are getting, they can be quite different between the various stress tests and the economic capital methods. They could differ quite drastically across the method. Because a few important points we have to understand between the way we are getting the loss estimates in case of stress tests and the loss estimates we are getting in case of the economic capital methods, base methods, or the value at risk kind of methods. In stress tests, whenever we are talking of loss, it's purely from the perspective of accounting losses. Whereas in case of VAR, it's purely from a market loss perspective. Right? So how the particular value could go down in the market? What could be the impact of the price? So that is what we are looking at in case of VAR or economic capital kind of a measure. But in a stress test, we are majorly looking at the accounting perspective of the loss, wherein the company could go bankrupt. So these are some of the important aspects that we are looking at in stress tests. So the major focus is the losses from an accounting perspective, whereas in case of VAR or economic capital, we are talking of losses from a market perspective. And enterprise-wise stress tests, generally they have considered a long time period, the time period which we are using for enterprise-wise stress tests, 1 year period, 5 year period. So the time horizon that is being used for enterprise-wise stress tests is a very long period, whereas the economic capital-based models or VAR-based models, if you see, we are talking about a 10-day VAR in the market risk perspective. So we are talking of at a particular point in time what is the economic capital or what is the value at risk. And traditionally, we did not, we can very well say that the probability did not play any kind of a prominent role in stresses. When I use this statement, it means, okay, I have designed the extreme scenarios, right? Either the macroeconomic extremes or company specific extremes or whatever. I have designed the extreme scenarios, but I never came into what is the probability that this scenario can occur. If I consider what is the probability that this scenario can occur, then whatever is the value that we are getting as a loss estimate, I can give a probabilistic assumption to that loss estimate. Though it can very well be done, but traditionally what you observe is people only create extreme scenarios, but they don't talk about the probabilities at which each of these extreme scenarios are bound to occur. Whereas in VAR, we always talk about 1% significant level or 99.9% confidence level kind of VAR. So the probabilities have played a very important role in VAR type of models, but in stress tests we really don't see the importance of probability coming up at all. And majority of the stress tests are ad hoc and conditional based on various other activities that are occurring, whereas you find more and more unconditional scenarios in VAR or economic capital kind of metrics. So though you find that there could be some level of similarities where both the models are addressing the risk management aspects per se, but these are some of the major differences that you see between them. The view that they take, accounting versus the market, the time horizon they focus on, the long term in stresses versus short term for VAR, the role of probability in these kind of tests, In stress test, you don't find the role of probability at all. Whereas in VAR type of models, probability plays a very significant role. And the ad hoc and conditional kind of tests are associated in stress tests, whereas we see more and more of unconditional scenarios being created in VAR type metrics. So some of these things we need to have a good understanding on when we are differentiating between these two bigger measures of risk. Now, if I have to use VAR model in stress test, right? If at all I need to use a value at risk model in stress test, we know if I, especially in credit based scenarios, if I have to compute the loss, we can look at the expected loss as probability of default multiplied by loss given default multiplied by exposure at default. So the VAR model is providing a mechanism for computing the loss through this kind of a formula. So now what people are doing as a part of the stress testing, including stress testing as a part of VAR, they are computing the stress test. Based on that, they are computing the loss and taking this as the expected loss and finding the unexpected loss also, or the standard deviation of the loss, also finding out the standard deviation of the loss. They are creating a loss distribution, and based on the loss distribution they are checking out where this particular loss that has come through the stress test on that. So it is like this. Okay, let's say this is the expected loss that you got through the VAR model, or probably the simple loss function, and based on that we also have got the standard deviation of the losses, and based on this, let's say this is the distribution that we are able to create, and after that I have computed the loss using the stress test. So let's say the loss using the stress test came out to be here. Based on this I will find out what is the probability, right? What is the area underneath this curve? So based on this historical hypothetical kind of a scenario, this is an hypothetical scenario because I have created it as a stress test. Whereas for the VAR, we have computed this distribution based on the expected loss and the standard deviation of the losses. So now I am looking at mapping the loss that I have got through the stress test onto the loss distribution that I have got by the understanding of the VAR. So we have computed the expected loss and the unexpected loss, standard deviation of the losses, and based on that we got the distribution of the loss. Now the loss that we have got through the stress testing, we are trying to see where exactly on this curve that this loss is lying, and based on that people are trying to associate a probability to this hypothetical stress scenario. So because of that I can very well create a probability of occurrence of that particular scenario, and I am even able to understand to what extent that this particular loss outcome is possible to occur, because we are able to associate the probability of occurrence of that historical hypothetical test scenario. So that is how we are able to use the VAR models in stress tests. We know that some losses are simply unacceptable because of the heavy magnitudes that they are having, especially with respect to the operational risk. These kind of losses are quite heavy in nature. So the likelihood, even if it is the very minutely occurring, but if it occurs, probably if it is going to have a very severe impact, probably the likelihood of the scenario may not be important at all. So for majority of the scenarios, the output tends to be used as a loss in that particular scenario and the likelihood of that scenario. So that is how we are trying to link the VAR models in the stress tests. These are the different approaches that are being followed. Major approach being you compute the loss expected and the standard deviation of the losses, and then try to map where on that loss distribution curve you could associate the outcome that is coming out of the stress test. Now, in the recent past, it is a very much a practice that for computing the capital requirements, we are talking about the importance of stressed VAR. Right? Basel also suggested the computation for stressed VAR as a mechanism for capital allocation. So in the market risk computations, nowadays we are seeing that the stress VAR is a very, very essential concept. So the new market risk rule with respect to Basel, it requires that the banks use different kinds of stressed inputs and compute the stressed VAR. So the suggestion is they have to compute the stressed value at risk measure, where whatever is the value at risk calculation that they are performing, they have to do it on the current portfolio, right? The same value at risk they have to perform on the current market portfolio. The only thing they have to talk about is the factors that they are using to understand the movement of the current portfolio. They will not use the current factors. If they are using the current factors, then it is the current one. But they have to use the factors from the period of stress. So assuming the way the stocks have moved during the period of stress, if the same kind of movement happens today, that is where I am saying the factors experienced during the period of stress. If that same macroeconomic movements which happened during the 2008 period or a very highly stressed period, if similar kind of things are going to happen today, what would be the kind of impact that my portfolio will have? So that is what we are calling as stressed value at risk. So I have to consider a stressed period. I have to look at the factors associated with that stressed period, use those factors as the input for the measurement of VAR for the current portfolio, and that VAR is what we are calling as a stressed VAR. And the way it is computed again is based on the 10-day 99 percentile one-tailed confidence interval. That is what we do for any kind of VAR calculation. Market risk, as per the Basel, we have to compute the 10-day VAR, 99 percentile VAR with a one-tailed confidence level, and that number you have to apply it on the current portfolio. So the model inputs, whatever are the various factors that I am calculating and giving to the model, they are calibrated to a historical data, continuous 12 months period where there is a very, very highly stressed period. Now that would be given as an input, and on the top of it I am trying to compute the 10-day 99 percentile VAR, and based on that I am able to associate how much of capital is very much required for the period. So that is one approach. Two, nowadays banks are using their own internal models, more sophisticated. They have considered the correlation, scopula models between they have understood the various variables that are impacting, the kind of internal correlations that are existing between them. So they have designed their own sophisticated statistical based internal models so that the overall stress testing program is very, very comprehensive. And even there they are using highly stressed inputs. So the input that they are taking is the period, the factors that are associated with the stressed periods. So they are using these stressed inputs for the computation of the capital requirements, as well as for credit valuation adjustment, especially if they have to value their credit security, the loan portfolios and the various derivative securities where there is a possibility of counterparty risk. Valuing those kind of securities also, they are taking the stressed inputs as one of the important factors. But one thing is the more better the inputs are, the more better are your outputs coming out of the model. So if I am taking a correct stress period, probably the VAR that I am getting is more comfortable, the stressed VAR that I am getting is more reliable. But if the incorrect stress period is taken, probably the kind of stressed VAR estimate that I am getting may not be anywhere closer to relevant. So choosing the right set of data, the right time horizons, the right time period will be a very essential aspect in the computation of the stressed value at risk. Now, we have been talking about computing the stressed VAR, taking the stressed inputs. First advantage I look at is, first of all, we are using this for the capital adequacy purpose. We are trying to look at how much capital needs to be maintained. For the capital requirement, we are using these stress test measures. So, unexpected losses are trying to come up during the extreme scenarios. We are giving very huge stressed environments, plausible, not too much implausible kind of scenarios. But within the plausible scenarios, all the extreme events that we are giving, based on that, we are able to come out with expected losses, and for the expected losses, we are looking at the capital requirement. So the basic expectation here is, when that next stress event or next shock is going to occur, the capital that the bank or the financial institution is having will be more or less adequate to compensate for the losses that are going to come up, which means the chances of bankruptcy, the chances of failure are very much reduced drastically. That's the major advantage that I should visualize from using the stress risk metric. And the more and more I am giving stressed inputs, it means that all my assessment of the risk and all my risk taking becomes very conservative. So there is a positive side to it, there is a negative side to it, but on the positive side, the more and more conservative, the chances of bankruptcy go more and more lesser. So, but on the negative side, if you start looking at, I'm creating hypothetical scenarios, I'm creating everything virtually. So, whatever the metric that I'm designing, it is nowhere applicable to the current market conditions. Right? The current market conditions does not go as an input at all into the overall model. I will create some kind of hypothetical scenario regarding the market condition, and based on that input, my portfolio composition becomes a very important aspect. So based purely on the composition of the portfolio, I will be able to assess and compute the amount that is at risk, which will really result in what should be the amount of capital that needs to be set aside for addressing such a kind of risk. So that's what is on the negative side, right? We are not considering the current market conditions at all. The only input that is going as an important driver of the stress risk based capital requirement is the composition of the portfolio itself, because the scenario that you are giving has nothing to do with the current market condition. It's a hypothetically extreme kind of scenario. So we have to be aware of all these aspects when we are using stress tests and the results of stress tests for risk based decision making purpose. So that is what I wanted to look at as a part of this session. We looked at these four major aspects. In case you have any further queries, you can better get in touch with me by giving me a call on the number that I have given below, or you can even send in an email at vamsidhar@pacegurus.com. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.